We call it parenting aging parents, and yet there's some other family members involved, especially if you have kids of any age, whether they're in their 20s like ours or even younger. Kids are a factor.
Absolutely. So today we brought in Jaci Finneman. She is a parenting coach with No Problem Parenting. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, you guys. It's great to see you again.
Well, there are so many people in our community that are part of what we call the sandwich generation, where you have parents that you're caring for and kids that you're caring for, and looking to really help people figure out how do you put those together so that you don't shortchange either one. And
Absolutely.
would love to get just your thoughts, especially from how do you parent kids while you're also parenting your parents?
It is such a good question, and I think it's not talked about enough. I think, oftentimes if we are living, our parents are living with us, and
Mhm.
we're raising our kids, whether they're little or they're teens. People don't have those feel as comfortable having those conversations about, well, how's that going with having
Mhm.
your parents living with you and raising your kids? We think, oh, it must be so nice that your parents can help with the littles, or they can, take some of the responsibilities. Well, that's great when that happens, but sometimes that's not the case. We are actually doing a lot of caregiving for the aging parents, or if they're in an assisted living, or they're in, some kind of care facility, and you're feeling torn going
Mhm.
back, running the kids to school or picking them up from their activities, and then also making sure that you're visiting your parents or taking care of their legal matters, or I mean, just
Hmm.
all the things. You're feeling kind of this tug of war.
Hmm.
And is it ever enough, and much less caring for yourself, right? Making sure that you're doing some good self-care. So the fun thing about No Problem Parenting is really three steps. Seek first to understand, why is my child behaving the way they are, and why am I responding or reacting the way I am. That can be applied to an aging parent as well.
Hmm.
Why is my aging parent, or my, behaving the way they are? Are they depressed? Are they sad? Are they struggling? Are they feeling, all those kinds of things? And why am I responding or reacting to their behavior or their situation the way that I am? So the first thing is to seek first to understand.
Hmm.
Second is to prepare for the worst. We can't always be prepared. Life throws us curveballs. Our kids and aging parents certainly do, right? But there are those certain behaviors or challenges that are going to happen day in and day out, that we know are going to happen, right? And those are the things we can be prepared for. Much like I just learned with you guys, the caregiver's key. That is a great tool to help you prepare for the
Mhm.
worst, right? And then step three is to change the conversations. You know, I believe that we're giving our kids way too much unconditional praise, so much so that they don't believe what we're telling them. They don't believe it themselves. So I teach a lot about giving conditional praise first and then pouring on the unconditional praise. And we can again do that same thing with the conversations that we're having with our aging parents. Lead with empathy, not sympathy for their situation, because empathy is way more empowering. So naming the conversation, naming the elephant in the room, the problem, the challenge, instead of feeling, oh, we can't talk about it, or I don't know what to say, and we just kind of, go through the motions day in and day out. When a parent is struggling with feeling torn in all the different directions, the younger kids sometimes feel left out. They feel
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
there's mom and dad don't have enough time for me. The
Right.
teenagers, they don't really want us around a lot, but when they want us, right? And they want our full attention. And sometimes when you're caring for your own parent, you can just really feel tug of war and torn. So we just name what we're thinking.
Hmm.
Say the thoughts out loud. I wonder if you feel like I'm giving grandma or grandpa more attention than I'm giving you. I wonder if you're thinking that, or if you're feeling that. Ask them, see what
Mhm.
they say. Just naming that can be so huge. You can say to your aging parent, I wonder if you're feeling like a burden,
Yeah.
for us, that, we're here and not at our kids' baseball game
Mhm.
because you needed us. I wonder if you ever feel like you're a burden. We're sometimes afraid. We're thinking these things, and then
Mhm.
we're pouring all this energy into the problem, right? And it may not be a problem at all if we just
Hmm.
have that honest conversation and just say those, I wonder if, or I noticed that, You're maybe kind of irritable with me, or, it seems like you're maybe resenting the fact that grandma's here or that I'm gone visiting grandpa
Mhm.
so much or whatever. I just wonder, and then it opens the door for the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm picturing our kids as teenagers. That could be an interesting
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm of the belief, and I think it's because of the way my dad raised me when my grandfather had a stroke when I was 13, that it has to be a team effort. Now, team
Yes.
effort doesn't mean, okay, son, you have to do all the work, but
Mhm.
a team effort to keep everyone involved.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think when our kids feel needed, when they feel acknowledged, and when they feel part of the team,
Mm-hmm.
and included, they do better. Excuse me.
Mhm.
They feel important and they feel like they matter. And that's the same for the aging parent as well. When you're being cared for, sometimes that can feel less empowering. You feel like, you're not as important, you're a burden, you're a problem, that kind of thing. So as much as we can include both the child
Mhm.
and the aging parent, and help them feel important and needed and valued, I think that's super key.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, just from some of the conversations we've heard in the community, that it can be easy, I think, for the kids to start feeling a little bit of resentment, because in many cases it's a situation of the kids have, it's been your immediate family, you've been taking care of your kids, and all of a sudden now, because of either a crisis, a diagnosis, a fall, or whatever, an
Mm-hmm.
accident, all of a sudden now there's this attention that needs to be paid to your parents, to the
Right.
grandparents, and there can be that resentment of, wait a minute, I used to get all of your attention and now you're turning your focus to the grandparents. And I love what you mentioned earlier about, being able to really just have those conversations, because I think we probably often make assumptions, or we just think, oh, they're fine, they'll bounce back, it'll just be for a short time. And while
Right.
often it might be just for a short time,
Mm-hmm.
because it is just, okay, mom just had knee surgery and we've got a few weeks that we need to really focus on, the grandparent with the knee surgery. But a lot of times it can go on and on and on and on. And I would imagine it can start creating some issues then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just recently had a guest on the podcast that was talking about the difference between investing time and spending time.
Hmm.
So when you think about an investment, right? What is your hope when you invest in something?
Yeah.
You're expecting a return on your investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something, you're going to get something back. When we spend $5 on something, well, we just know that's money. Money's gone. We spent the time; it's gone, right? So think about that when you're investing in time with your aging parent and or your child. That doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours. Invest even just your kiddo comes to you and says, they need something and they're hounding you. You're like, well, I'm getting this, I'm going through grandma's bills, and I'm figuring out the plan for next month and making sure, and you're just so into your task, and your kid's like, mom, I need you, I have to have pause, invest that 3 minutes, 5 minutes, hearing your child. What is their need? How can you help them? How can you give them that attention for that little bit? And they're going to go on their way and they're going to be just fine, because you invested that time,
Mhm.
just that bit, right? And then you can go back to whatever it is that you were doing. So I'm not sure if I explained that all exactly right, but I think of the difference between investing and spending. And
Mhm.
you can say to your kids how grateful you are when they help out with something. Like you were saying,
Mhm.
Mike, it's not about the kids carrying the burden, but kids do want to feel important. They do want to feel that what they're contributing matters and helps. And that's the same with the aging parents. When you can give grandma or grandpa a task, whether they're living with you or not,
Mm-hmm.
and letting them know how much you value their input or their
Mhm.
insight or their support, just invest that little bit of time hearing them. It really goes a long way.
Yeah. I think so much of it has to do with expectations. What are you expecting to happen? Yeah, I've been a couple times over the last 2 years since my mom moved to memory care when my son, our son Brandon, has said something about, oh yeah, what are you doing on Thursday? I'm thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. Coming by the house. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be gone all day. I'm going to go up to Rockwall to see Graham and Cubby, and my mom and dad. That's what we call them. And so I'm going to leave at 7 in the morning. I won't be back until 8 or 9 at night. And, oh. So you hear a little bit of disappointment, but I'll be around Friday, or what about this weekend? So kind of making up for what they're missing, but making sure that they expect the right things, so they don't get too disappointed when, oh, I really wanted X to happen or Y to
Mhm.
happen, and
Yeah.
that's when resentment can
Mhm.
occur, and
Mhm.
that's what you want to try to
Mhm.
avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. And also bring your kids along.
Yeah.
When you're going and visiting, and include them in the visiting of grandma and grandpa, include them in the phone calls, the FaceTiming,
Mhm.
having maybe one night a week where they're doing, and it can be just them, not you, hey, and really including them in the care of your aging parent or their grandparent, and vice versa.
Mhm.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
it's not the weight can always just feel so much on us, but sometimes that's self-imposed
Right.
Yeah.
because we feel like we're the only ones that can do everything.
Right, and I think that's actually a really great point, is that a lot of times we do feel like, "Oh, I have to do this, and
Mhm.
I need to do this as well." And I think that, just like with other things in life, when do you need to bring in somebody else and delegate a little bit? We do that some with computer help with my father-in-law, where we'll get our son involved. "Hey,
Hmm.
can you help,
Yeah.
granddad with the phone issue he's having, or
Hmm.
can you update his he got a new phone. Can you help him
But
redo the apps and stuff?"
But by the same token, if my son or my daughter needs some financial advice, I can give them some. But I say, talk to your granddad.
Hmm.
You know,
Yes.
that was his job for 50 years, was to be a CFO type. So
Hmm.
talk to them. Let
Right.
him tell you some things to do. So having it be, where they're sharing that experience and able to help each
Right.
other
Hmm.
helps so much.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's similar to when, working parents often struggle with, being torn between work and home life, and, they're missing out on their kids' activities, in the summer when the schedule's more open, but the parent still has to work.
Hmm.
Oftentimes we can feel, really torn, and we approach our kids with, they say, Mom, can you come to that game today? And you say, oh, buddy, I'm sorry, I have to work. And see how that's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to work.
Hmm.
Instead, we can say, oh, you know what? I'm working. I get to work if you enjoy your job, right? Or I get to work. And, Susie's parents are going to be there, and they're going to take some video and send it to me so that I get to see you playing your game. Right. So it's that kind of like the lilt in your voice, the attitude behind, the confidence behind the
Hmm.
conversation that you're having with your kid. We don't always have to come from oh, I feel bad,
Hmm.
and all the guilt and the whatever that comes behind it. We can be excited about it. And one of the things that I coach parents on is how to have a family plan. What
Hmm.
does your family plan look like during the school year, during the summer, when you're, welcoming a grandparent into the home, or you're spending more time with them, at their home? What does that look like for your family? I mean, that normalizes your family situation. And then everybody can feel comfortable and confident in, this is how our family works. We don't get to see mom and dad every single day, because by the time they get home, they're in bed or they're done with work. Now they're going to visit grandma and grandpa, and I'm going to get maybe 10 minutes before bed, or I might not see my parent till the next day.
Hmm.
Well, that can feel very, draining, and you can have a lot of, sadness around that, or guilt as a parent, but you don't have to. Who says you have to?
Hmm.
Instead, you can be like, this is when we get to see you on Saturday. It's just us.
Yeah.
Or on
Hmm.
Sunday, that's how it works. And
Hmm.
everybody else is going to take their role throughout the week,
Hmm.
and they're going to do their tasks, or, have their schedule. And that is so cool and important. Everybody's going to get their stuff done. And then on Saturday or Sunday, we're getting together, and that's our real bonding time, our family time. And we're going to
Boy,
invest in our family that way.
yeah, I love that idea of the family plan, because it's just what you talked about, is setting those expectations. That if you
Expectations.
have kind of that family plan,
Yeah.
Mm.
everybody sort of knows what's happening. And I imagine, when the kids are really little, they may or may not, if you have toddlers, they may or may not be as able to understand that. But I think that it sounds like it just will really set the tone
Hmm.
for how the family operates. And I think back to when our kids were really little, and Mike worked nights. And during football
Mhm.
season, he often did not get to come home for dinner. So they wouldn't see, they'd be
Yes.
long asleep before he got home. But instead, he made sure that every single morning he was up with them, took them to school, and did all of that, just to kind of be able to not be, man, I'm so sorry I can't do that. It was just kind of the reality that
Just
we lived with.
managing the
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
focus on
expectations.
what we
Yeah.
can do.
Right.
Yeah, let's focus
Right.
on what we can do and feel really confident in that because our kids then are at ease and they feel better. It's like dropping your toddler off at daycare and they start crying.
Yeah.
And it's, I want mommy, I want mommy, I want, and they don't want you to leave. The daycare lady, if you have a good daycare, they're going to say, go. Don't go, don't squat down and comfort them and act like it's just go. Just say, hey, I'm going to work. Have a great day and walk out, even as they're crying and, maybe throwing their little fit. Because within a couple of minutes, they'll redirect and they'll settle
Mhm.
in and they're going to start having fun. And so the more confident we feel and the more we normalize the situation that it's okay, the better our kids will
Mhm.
feel about that too. So, yeah. And that can work again with aging parents. I think about when I used to visit my great grandmother in the nursing home, and I had this sadness sometimes that she was there. And,
Mhm.
we'd get to visit for just a few minutes or something. And then we'd have to leave. And it would be like, oh, we have to leave. And there's like this sadness. No, instead, you can be like, I'm so excited or I'm so grateful that I was able to visit with you today for this hour. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And
Mhm.
so, again, we can just shift our mindset a little bit and we can be excited about the time that we had
Mhm.
and that she's there and cared for and getting her needs met. And we can feel very secure in that.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is just the messages and the things that you tell yourself. You can
Mhm.
talk yourself into it being a positive thing,
Mhm.
or you can talk yourself into it
Mhm.
being,
Mhm.
something that you feel really sad or
Yeah.
guilty about.
So really, it sounds like a lot of it is really our mindset and how we approach the situation, whether it's the conversations that we have with our children and letting them be aware, bringing them alongside, and really just being a decision on our part of how we want to try to handle. And I mean, although we know that sometimes situations aren't ideal because maybe you have a parent with
Yeah. Right.
advanced Alzheimer's that's living with you and the kids, and it there are some situations that can be really really tough.
Yeah. Hard to manage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, no problem parenting is all about, I used to drive me nuts when people would say, oh, no problem. And I'm like, I think it kind of is a problem. You know how sometimes you're like, do they really mean that? But no problem parenting is all about turning problems into a no problem. So, right in the definition of the word problem, a problem is a matter or situation that is harmful or unwanted, right? And
Mhm.
needing to be dealt with and overcome. So that's what we do here. We take problems. It's not like you're not going to have problems, right?
Mhm.
And that's my only guarantee in no problem parenting. I say to parents, I can guarantee you're going to have problems raising your kids, right?
Yeah.
But we can turn those problems into a no problem. We can deal with and overcome any problem or challenge. And so, yes, it has a lot to do with reframing and
Mhm.
mindset shift and feeling empowered
Yeah.
to deal with and overcome any problem or any challenge that
Yeah.
comes your way.
Yeah.
Well, Jackie, I think you've given us some great advice to how to not avoid those problems, but how to
Mhm.
handle them in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Go right in. You see a problem. I say, hey, problem, I see you over there trying to put a wedge in my relationship with my child. I got this. No problem. And, I
Awesome.
really, it's all about becoming the confident leaders our kids crave us to be.
Yeah.
So,
All
Very,
right. Well,
very good.
thanks so much for being with us.
We appreciate
oh,
it.
Well, I think I love the ideas of just really having that family plan
Hmm.
and thinking of, I wonder if, and really just having that open communication
Yeah.
really with the kids of all ages.
Because communication is the key,
Mhm.
as we say in so many ways. If there's any other topics you'd like us to discuss, please let us know. Parenting aging parents.